Tribe Primitive Builder. Is it going to be a win or a bin? Let's have a quick read through of the description on Steam. Become an exile, the only one who knows the truth. Survive on the island, lost to time. Build your own settlement. Reunite your tribe. Explore the open world and deliver a message from the gods before it's too late. I have to stress this is a playtest. The developer kindly allowed me to join in with this. So this isn't the finished article. Must always stress that every time I do one of these. So what is this then? Well, it's I would say it's a city builder, but you are first person, but also a bit of a resource manager as well. You can starve to death. You can dehydrate yourself to death. Is that a word? Thirst to death, something like that. But yeah, it's keep yourself alive, but also make sure that you've got places for people to live. Make sure that there's resources being collected by people on the island and all of those sort of things. Make sure that everyone's happy, basically. But it's all a bit of a mishmash of two genres, really. You start the game, you find yourself washed up on the shores of this really quite delightful island. Lovely golden beaches, blue sea, beautiful palm trees, just a bit lush, really. And you work your way through the island, just through the tutorial at the beginning, and you meet these very primitive tribal people, you know, the ones with the Ooga Booga masks, like in Crash Bandicoot. I think that's the ones. I'm sure they have proper names, but if I always remember them as the Ooga Booga masks. But they're a bit like that. Stupidly, I did kind of jump into this without reading too much about the game and to what genre it actually is. I just thought the game sounded cool, just literally from the name. Didn't really know what it was, and yeah, I think that's kind of a good way of going into a game actually, because you've got no anticipation of what it's going to be like. So it did make this one quite a fun experience. So let's crack on with the things that I like then, shall we? So first things first, and this is one of the things you can't help to avoid when you start the game, is how does the game look? Well, as I said a moment ago, the scenery is absolutely amazing. The graphics themselves are quite good. I'm playing sort of high level in terms of the settings. I'm probably one off the top level as to not strain things on the machine, but it does look really nice. The water's nice and the level of detail is really good. The textures are really good. The lighting is excellent. So they've done a good job there. It's a welcoming world, although there are volcanoes and presumably things that aren't too nice as you work through this. But of course, being a playtest, you don't have everything or can go everywhere on the map. Apparently, it's 5 times bigger once the game is fully released to what you are able to do in the playtest. So lots of things I'm sure that you can encounter in the scenery that we haven't seen yet and that you won't see in this video. I do love the mix of the genres, so I really like the population management idea here. So you build a building and you can assign workers to it, so people who will go and do fishing for you, people who will go and gather things for you, all of those things. And you need to make sure that they've got the right tools, which means you have to craft things for them to carry out their day-to-day jobs and keep them fed. So you start the game, you're doing all of this yourself, of course, because you start with literally nothing. And once you've got a few things together, you can start dishing them out to people, and it ultimately becomes self-managing. Whilst all that's happening, you're making sure that you have that you survive. So you've got to eat, you've got to drink, you've got to sleep. Otherwise, you end up either dying and, well, not dying, I think you just collapse. But all of your gear will then appear or be on the map where you passed out. So you have to go back and get it. So it's a bit annoying, but that is good because that's the survival element. So I do like this mixture of building population management with a self-survival aspect. There's loads of things in here to gather. There's different trees, there's bamboo, there's fish, there's different grasses, different leaves, big ones, smaller ones, herbs, and these are only the things in this playtest. There's going to be more, and there's probably things I've not even found or gone near, you know, rocks, those sort of things. There's plenty of things that you can get so far, some of which need certain tools to obtain, but that comes with the territory, I suppose, with the type of game. I do like with the trees, actually, when you cut them down, wherever you aim the axe, you see chunks come out of the tree. So I know some games like this, as you hack away at a tree, you see a specific point that the game's already decided is going to indent on the tree itself. But with this, it is very much where you hit it, that's where the chunks of the tree will come out. So I like that they've thought about that a little bit. Yeah, so obviously lots of good things there. A few things that are lacking in my opinion. So one of those lacking items is a lack of pathways on the map. Now there is a map, which is great, and it tells you where things are. However, it's not that specific because some things are underground in here. and you can go towards a building where you think a building is, and you can't see it, so you know it's underground. So you walk around a little bit, and sometimes you'll appear above it, and you can't jump down because, of course, you'll die because there's a big old drop underneath you. It's sometimes quite hard to find the entrance of buildings, and you do have to remember landmarks and features if you want to go back to them and find the entrances. That's probably by design, but it did get a little bit confusing, certainly when you're learning the map and you want to go back to somewhere to find something, and you get very lost very quickly. The cost of a building, I feel this is a little bit of a red herring here, because it tells you before you place a building you need X, Y, and Z amount of A, B, and C, which is fine because it does allow you, once you collect said amount of resources, to put the foundations down, which I understand, but it is quite expensive to build the rest of the building. You have to build it up from the ground. So you place your initial foundation down, you've then got to put the sides on, the roof on. They're all individual components and they all cost a separate amount of resource. What I think would be better is when you decide to get a building, it perhaps tells you how much it's going to cost, maybe in total, or how much the foundations will cost, because maybe you just want to get them down on the ground and then you can keep coming back and add it to it later. But it would be good to know how much you're going to need overall, because otherwise you keep grabbing bits to do the bits that you want to complete, but then you've got to go and run back and get a couple more bits, and it could be that you've got a hell of a long journey to go back to the place where you got that resource from. So if you could just know before you started how much of something you're going to need. It's not entirely unrealistic. If you were building a building, you know what you need, you know how much of something you're going to need. So I don't think it's unfair to have a bit more help on that front, so you don't waste time running backwards and forwards so much. With the resources, there are plenty of them, as I say, which is great. But you don't know what they are until you pick them up. Some things look a little bit similar. The leafy things look similar. I mean, obviously a rock's a rock. That's obvious. But some things do look similar. And it would be good maybe just to turn an option on. There may be one, and hands up if I've missed it. But if you hover your mouse over something, it just tells you what it is. Or have things a bit more distinguishable. Because yes, you can pick them up and then you can drop them if you really don't want them. But it'd just be good to know perhaps what something is before you pick it up. Final negative point here is at the beginning of the game, when you're learning everything, you're perhaps a little bit slow. I certainly am. I like looking at things, I like clicking around, and whilst you're doing all of that, you're getting hungrier and more thirsty. And I wasn't really paying attention, so it's probably on me. But I did feel that the hunger went down to a danger level as well as the thirst far too quickly. You could almost see the bar moving down towards the end, and it just seemed a little bit punishing to me. Again, you may be able to change that in the full game, because of course this is just a playtest, or there may be an option in there now that I just didn't see, so again, correct me if it's something in there. But I think at the beginning, as you're learning, maybe there should be a slight handicap to how much and how quickly even of those health bars you lose. Overall, I think this has the potential to be a really good fun game actually. A few things to polish out, and as long as the world is nice and big and expansive, as they say, with lots of things to do and manage, got a lot of potential and could be so much fun. It reminds me a little bit visually of Raft, with maybe some gameplay elements of Raft in terms of building things on your raft. But yeah, I mean, I'm just sort of trying to compare it to something, but yeah, it's got a lot going for it already. So I think when this comes out, hopefully later this year, if I'm lucky enough to get a key, I'll obviously be chuffed. If not, and it's at a reasonable price, I'll certainly get hold of it and give a full review on it.